I re-emphasize a couple of really good tips there. I think definitely looking at who's on meeting requests but not showing up, emails, blah blah blah, and then just pinging a LinkedIn connection request over is a really simple thing you can do that could really pay dividends down the line. I think also that's a really good point about CFOs talking to other CFOs. Ours is kind of slightly different, but also the same. So we work with a lot of in-house creative directors, so the leaders of the in-house creative teams at tech companies, which sounds a bit weird because we're a creative agency, but actually they need partners, and that they tend to be quite long-term, fruitful relationships. So our creative director at our place doesn't often get involved in closing those deals, but we'll often wheel him into a meeting or just get him to reach out to the prospect and say hello, get connected, because creatives love talking to other creatives. They feel like they're on a different plane sometimes. So I don't know, that's the same for CFOs, but it could well be. But to answer the question, yeah, I mean, we particularly at Shaped by, I suppose, to a point at other agencies I've been at, every deal is quite different, and even when I don't think at Shaped by over the years any two deals have been the same. Whether it's the buying committee, the prospect, the kind of the path of the deal, so to speak. So the big thing I've learned is to never take anything for granted. There is always something that can crop up at some point. So just really taking the time to ask those questions. Who are the key decision makers here? Who are the other stakeholders? Especially in projects that we do, like branding projects. I mean, it's always the CEO who, ultimately, no matter, and I've got a bit of a story about this in a little bit, but I'll save it for later. But, no matter how much you're told that it's the VP of brand who's driving the deal and has full autonomy to make the decision, a company's brand is so fundamental to the running of the business and to the CEO himself, especially if he's the founder, or he or she, he or she, to apologize, that they will get involved at some point. So they can often sabotage a brand project. From the point of view of other people that can potentially sabotage it, I think quite often the salesperson can sometimes sabotage their own deal by not asking the right questions. So I think that's always got to be in the back of your mind as well. Have I done enough here? Have I asked the right questions? Do I know enough? But then by the same token, we've learned to spot quite well certain instances and red flags that could derail a deal. So, if the prospect is being a little bit woolly about their budget, and where that comes from and whether that's been signed off, that's always quite a big red flag. We don't tend to get too involved on the CFO side in terms of having those direct conversations, but it's usually the CMO that comes into play at that point. Yeah, but I would say generally, yeah, the biggest piece of advice for me is never to ever take anything for granted. You can never know too much, and you can never ask too many questions either.